everyone, and welcome to New Jersey Performing Arts Center's 22nd Annual Kwanzaa Celebration. My name is Donna Walker-Kuhn. I am Senior Advisor to Community Engagement at NJPAC, and we are so excited that you are with us today to talk about the strength of Black theater. So as part of Kwanzaa, we have had a day-long series of events with still more to come. This morning, we had an incredible intergenerational discussion with our elders as they shared their pearls of wisdom. And then most recently, we had a panel with the Divine Nine, the Black sororities and fraternities, that really talked about social justice and what they're doing and what they're asking us to do to help transform society. And now we're going to talk about Black theater and the role of Black theater, the challenges, but also looking ahead towards 2021. So I'd like to thank our corporate sponsors who make Kwanzaa possible for NJPAC. Of course, this program is made possible through the generosity of Leon and Toby Cooperman, as they have funded this for the entire 22 years. And then we have additional support from ADP and sponsorship from the women at NJPAC, PSEG, Whole Foods Market, and part of the M&T Bank Dance Series. So we're delighted to partner with New Jersey Theater Alliance. And when they approached us, Deontay and Lauren Craig of Newark Arts approached NJPAC about hosting this Black theater panel, we just thought Kwanzaa is the perfect time to do it. And this panel will illustrate one of the principles of Kwanzaa, Ujima, which is collective work and responsibility. And so I'd like to introduce our curator for the panel today, Deontay Griffin Quick. Deontay has been on stages across the tri-state area, including the Apollo Theater, New Jersey Performing Arts Center, New Jersey Repertory Company, McCarter Theater, and he's a member of the Actors Equity, and he is a mover and shaker, and has really been an incredible advocate to make sure that theater continues to advance. So welcome, Dante.
Thank you, Ms. Donna. And I would like to thank NJPAC for hosting us. My name is Deontay Griffin Quick. I am the Manager of Programs and Services for New Jersey Theater Alliance. I'm joining you today from Linden, New Jersey, the land of the Lenape people. And I would really like to thank everyone for taking this opportunity to join us for this conversation on the strength and vitality of Black theater and the impact that it has on the arts sector at large. New Jersey Theater Alliance is a service organization to the state's professional theater companies, and our mission is to unite, promote, and strengthen and cultivate New Jersey's professional theaters. And we believe that through conversations such as the one we're having today is a way that we can strengthen and unite our community. In New Jersey Theater Alliance, we are actively seeking new ways to create platforms and opportunities to promote diversity and inclusivity. And we're extremely grateful for our partners, Newark Arts and NJPAC in this effort. And we're excited to be hosting some more conversations and events with them later this spring of 2021. So I would encourage everyone to follow and connect with all three organizations on social media and through our various platforms to ensure that you are aware of everything that is happening within our organizations. And I'm so excited for today's panel and the panelists and moderator who are going to take us further. They are all dynamic artists and producers and administrators in their own right, all of whom I am very pleased to know and have worked with in different capacities. And I'm so grateful for them lending their time and their voices to this conversation today. This event was originally planned to be a part of the Alliance's Stages Festival back in the spring of earlier this year, 2020, which is a statewide spring celebration of theater. And we're certainly grateful for this opportunity and platform to now be able to present it virtually to you all. And we're thrilled that we can also incorporate it into today's Kwanzaa celebration. But I would like to publicly acknowledge and thank the leading sponsors of the Stages Festival for all their support towards Stages programming. That's the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, a partner agency of the National Endowment for the Arts, Bank of America, and the Horizon Foundation for New Jersey. I want to encourage everyone to be sure to look out for more information regarding the Theater Alliance's upcoming Stages Festival happening in 2021. It'll be a 3-month-long celebration of theater filled with both in-person and virtual theater experiences that are free and low cost to those who seeking to participate. And lastly, I'm going to get out of the way, but I have the pleasure and honor of introducing our moderator for today, someone who I've worked with in many different capacities and someone who I respect and admire in the field, Mr. Marshall Jones III. Marshall Jones III is a director and producer and the former artistic director of Crossroads Theater Company in New Brunswick. He's a professor of theater for Rutgers University, New Brunswick, Mason Gross School of the Arts, and Kane University. And he's also a trusted and beloved trustee of New Jersey Theater Alliance, where he also co-chairs our Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. So I would like to pass the screen over to Mr. Marshall Jones, who will take us further in today's conversation. Thank you.
I'm muted. Thank you, Deontay. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad to be a part of NJPAC and the New Jersey Theater Alliance. I want us to take time to thank Dr. Ron Karenga for his vision some 50 years ago for creating the Kwanzaa celebration. Before I bring on the panel, I want to just bring out 2 points really, really quickly. Last night, we were treated with a treat on Netflix, a brilliant production of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, August Wilson's first major play, or second major play. So I would encourage all of you to watch it. You will see George C. Wolfe and Ruben Santiago Hudson, the director and the screenwriter, at their absolute best. I also want to point out that there was a recent article in the New York Times concerning the use of fences at a boarding school where a parent put forth some statements that led to her child being evicted from the school, expelled from the school. So I just want to point out, I know that NJPAC is really involved with education. They have an award-winning education department, and we probably have lots of teachers on this webinar. So I just want to point out that if you are teaching the work of August Wilson to young students, you want to make sure you put it in the context of racism, not just the individual actions of the characters, because they are all of their actions in all 10 of his plays are a direct result of the racism that they're confronted with. I'd like to open with a quote by Mr. August Wilson that he delivered in New Jersey, in Princeton, New Jersey, at a Theater Communications Group National Conference. And I'm going to do the whole quote, but there is a quote he gives about Black theater that I want our audiences to really, really focus in on. This is from his speech, The Ground on Which I Stand. The problematic nature of the relationship between Black and white for too long led us astray from the fulfillment of our possibilities as a society. We stare at each other across a divide of economics and privilege that has become an encumbrance on Black Americans' ability to prosper and on the collective will and spirit of our national purpose. I speak about economics and privilege, and if you will look at one significant fact that affects us all in the American theater, it is that 66 of the LORT theaters, LORT means resident theaters throughout the country, there is only one that can be considered Black. Mr. Wilson is referring to the Crossroads Theater Company in New Brunswick. For this, it could be falsely assumed that there are not sufficient numbers of Blacks working in the American theater to sustain and support mere theaters. If you do not know, I will tell you that Black theater in America is alive. It is vibrant, it is vital, it just isn't funded. That's from the lips of August Wilson in 1996, June 26th of 1996. I will repeat it. Black theater in America is alive, it is vibrant, it is vital, it just isn't funded. He goes on to say that Black theater doesn't share in the economics that would allow it to support its artists and supply them with meaningful avenues to develop their talent and broadcast and disseminate ideas crucial to its growth. The economics are reserved as privilege to the overwhelming abundance of institutions that preserve, promote, and perpetuate white culture. He ends by saying, that is not a complaint, that is an advertisement. August Wilson, June 26, 1996, almost 25 years ago. I'd like to bring in our panel so that we could discuss Mr. Wilson's quote about Black theater being alive, vibrant, and vital. It just isn't funded. Was that something that just existed in 1996, or is it present today? Panel. Okay. So why don't we just do brief introductions? And Janice, why don't you start off?
Sure. My name is Janice Freeman Clark. I am the co-founder and artistic director of Vanguard Theater Company.
And where is Vanguard located?
Montclair, New Jersey.
You want to give us your website, please?
Sure. www.vanguardtheatercompany.org. And that's theater spelled with an ER at the end as opposed to an RE.
Great. Thank you. Andrew, why don't you share who you are to our viewing audience?
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew Binger, and I'm the artistic director for Yendor Theater Company. We're based in the city of Newark, New Jersey.
And do you have a website that you'd like to share?
People can find more information about Yendor Theater Company, as well as our parent organization, Yendor at Large, at yendorproductions.com.
Great. Thank you so much. And Aaron.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Aaron L. McKinney, the General Manager of High Arts on the Upper East Side, calling from Lenape Land in Brooklyn, New York. And to find out more about High Arts, you can look us up at www.hi-artsnyc.org.
Great. We love our partners across the river. And Damien, we're going to go south.
Hello, my name is Damian Paran, and I'm the Managing Director for Passage Theater Company. We're located in Trenton, New Jersey, center of the state. And our website is www.passagetheaters, theater spelled with an R-E, in our case, .org.
Great, thank you. And Desi.
Hi. And good afternoon, everybody. I'm Desi Shelton. I come from the best city in this whole country, probably the whole world, but I haven't been there. From Camden, New Jersey. I am from Camden Rep Theater. Thank you so much for having me. www.camdenrep.com. But be scared before you go on there, because like my hood, you're not going to know what you're going to get. So you might be a little cautious before you go on the Camden Rep website.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. And Aaron, thank you for acknowledging the land on which you stand. I'm in North Brunswick, New Jersey, which is also the land of the Lenape tribe. I really think it's important for us as Black people to connect to our indigenous brothers and sisters who also felt the powers of white supremacy and racism as an entire peoples. But I want to bounce back to our opening quote from August Wilson. Mr. Wilson, who some people say is his work is Shakespearean. I'd like to say that Shakespeare's work is Wilsonian, if you know what I mean. Because the brother has written work that will outlast us all, just like Mr. Shakespeare, and people will be reading those characters and reading those plays 400 years from now. But his quote in 1996, right down the road in Princeton at the McCarter Theater, he says, in front of an all-white audience where 66 member theaters throughout the country, and only one was a Black theater company, that is Crossroads Theater Company. And he says, Black theater is vibrant, vital, and alive, but it's just not funded. So I put forth to you guys who all operate your own theaters, is that true today, some 25 years later? You guys are alive and well, but you're just not funded.
I can start. You know, I will say that this year has been a major shift for our theater company. And I wonder if a lot of my fellow directors here would agree. I think that there's been a lot more acknowledgement with this resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement. There's been a lot more recognition of Black theaters. I can say from Vanguard's standpoint, we've got more funding in the last 6 months collectively than I feel that we have from our entire existence. And so that is fantastic. I question whether that will continue. I wonder if this is a momentary gifting that's happening right now in light of what the world is focused on. I don't know that that will continue, but I will say that before this year, it's been a huge struggle.
And I agree. I think that is the fear. You touched on it. I think somewhere inside of us, Camden Rep got their first major gift in 15 years. And I think this year will be the first year. And I don't know if I'm embarrassed to say, it's not embarrassed. It could be embarrassed to say that after 15 years, this will be our first time breaking 100K. And we put up the work. We put up the work and we put up great work anyway. But touching on what you said, I agree. It's somewhere in my gut, in the pit of my stomach. I'm like, was that a one-time gift that you're going to give and then you're going to snatch it back? And because it was a major funder, because it was the William Penn Foundation, I'm thinking, other funders are going to follow and I'll be able to capitalize off of that. But we haven't yet been able to capitalize off of that financially, but it does give you a sense of validation. As much as I always say, I don't need validation from anyone outside of this community to say that the work that I'm doing is important. When they called me and said that we are going to fund you, and they funded us a third of what we asked for, it still was a part of me that was validated. But I don't want to, I digress. Let's go back to the point. Yes, we received more, but it is a fear that it is a one-time deal.
Yeah, that I want to come back to the future, but let's just dig. We're going to be real, y'all. Why? And Desi, I certainly appreciate the fact that you are honest and open enough to say that you got a sense of validation from those dollars. You said the William Penn Foundation, William Penn Fund?
Yes, sir.
All right, we can give them some love. No matter what caused them to write that check, we will give them some love. But let's be real. Why are they writing those checks now at this point in time? I would love to hear what you guys have to say. I think we all know what the cause is, but let's just put it out there in the open. Let's not act like this elephant is not here. Who'd like to say why?
I think, Marshall, I think you're touching on this response to what's happened with Black Lives Matter over the summer. And it was this moment of reckoning where people who have been literally screaming for years and years and years finally were heard, and people are like, oh my gosh, there's racism. Oh my gosh, our funding practices aren't, equitable for all. Or, oh my gosh, you don't like the organizational structure where, the decision makers don't necessarily reflect the work that's being produced, and you want to do it on your own, but you don't have access to the same resources. It's just like, it's so interesting because there was this mass awakening of so many people, and then there was people that look like you and I on the corner, on the side, looking like, y'all just getting it. It's just like, and it just really connects to this idea that, as August Wilson said, we have consistently been creating amazing works, and just not getting produced at the same rate, and then not getting the same amount of resources as other people, other theater companies doing this work, because there's theater companies who do and produce Black plays, but they're not Black theater companies.
Absolutely. And, you know, it also creates lots and lots of challenges when you want to do, say, an August Wilson play, providing the right kind of support for those artists. But we're going to talk about what we do. I think what's also really interesting is that we know how to do more with less.
Yes.
So, you know,
That is frustrating.
you
So
give us some tools, you give us some resources, and just watch out. And I think a great example of that was Ma Rainey. I know that's cinema and Netflix, and we're here to talk about theater. But when you have artists who are at the top of their game and you give them resources, you get work like that. I saw a lot of head shaking about the resources. So, Brother Damien, why don't you follow up on that in terms of how getting resources can allow the Passage Theater in Trenton, New Jersey to have an impact on your community?
Well, I mean, Trenton, New Jersey is it's the capital of the state of New Jersey, but it's a very small city, and it has some economic challenges with it. It's had severe challenges, but Passage has been able to sort of hang in there for 35 years. And a lot of that is due to local foundations. You know, we've got the Princeton Area Community Foundation, the Dodge Foundation, and so forth, and many other foundations, the Schubert, things like that, that have really helped sort of solidify our place here in the community. But I think one of the challenges for Trenton that's sort of different for larger cities is the corporate relationships. Right. So it's hard for Passage to really connect with corporations for the simple fact that we don't have a lot of corporations based here. Thankfully, we have the Horizon Foundation, which has been very supportive of Passage, but there's so few in PNC Bank and things like that. But there's a lot more, but there's so few located here. And a lot of times funders only want to focus where their footprint is, which is understandable, but it sort of closes the opportunity for groups like Passage. And something else that I also noticed too is that Passage, we're oftentimes going after the same funding with other service organizations in our community. And they don't always necessarily have to be arts organizations either. They're just, you know, they're foundations that have a passion for the community. They want to support the arts, but they also want to support the services as well. So trying to always balance and raise the visibility with funders that, yes, the service support is definitely needed, but there's also a great need for arts and culture in our community as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I want to bounce back to Mr. Wilson's quote. He says, vibrant and vital. So I would like to hear from all of you. Talk to us about how your theater companies are vibrant and vital. Brother Aaron, we'll go across the river and have your perception of why what you do is vital and vibrant.
Well, first of all, one thing that I have noticed about this pandemic or these pandemics is that it has put, or it has had an opportunity to highlight the institutions that have been doing the work. And what we've seen at High Arts, an organization that was founded in 2000. So we've been doing this work, dedicating our work to hip hop and urban artists for 20 years. We were founded as the Hip Hop Theater Festival. And now people are noticing. It has taken these pandemics for people to notice those organizations or those institutions that have been doing this work for a long time, but not really getting noticed. So I think for us, especially, for us, for an institution that started, focusing on hip hop theater or hip hop performing arts when that wasn't, the popular thing. And now we have broadened to more than just hip hop theater. We do theater, music, visual art, and dance dedicated to hip hop and urban culture. you know, I think it's very vital because it is an opportunity for those artists that usually don't get an opportunity to be heard in a narrative that usually isn't told, or and especially an opportunity to develop work. And that's what I tell artists that we work with all the time in our residency programs, that you have to take advantage of this opportunity, because it's not often that artists of color are able to receive a stipend and have space to develop work, not to produce a work, but to explore, play, and develop work. And so that's why I think our institution is vital, is because we give artists the opportunity to explore and play as they develop the work, to tell these different narratives.
Absolutely. And your founders, Mr. Clyde Valentine and Camilla Forbes, have created a lasting legacy that you're upholding.
And Danny Hawk is the three of them.
Yes, the triumvirate. Before I move on, though, you hit on something. You said these two diseases. Can you, I think I know where you're going, but can you elaborate a little bit?
Sure. I mean, of course, we know the health crisis with the coronavirus, but also, you know, I think this year, and it's not like this is the first time it has happened, but the attack on Black bodies, especially from law enforcement. And so, you know, we speak about both pandemics because it is put, like I said, put a highlight on Black institutions, Black organizations, because there have been artists that have been documenting and telling the story of what's happening now. And so it's very important to speak about, you know, both the health crisis and this crisis on the attack of Black bodies.
Thank you. Thank you. And I was correct in my assumption of what you meant by the two diseases, but yes, it's affecting all of us, not just Black and brown bodies, but just all of us. And we need to recognize that we're all one. And by continuing to sow division, we're never going to move forward and reach out, as Dr. King said, the meaning of our true creed, which is in the founding documents of this nation. Let's move to Yendur. Andrew, why don't you tell our viewing audience about why your company is vibrant and vital?
Well, I mean, and it connects to the first point about lack of funding, but it's always bewildering to me to think about the city of Newark not having a theater presence. I mean, this is the birthplace of Amiri Baraka, who was one of the leading voices in Black theater and art in general. And for us to not have a space dedicated to continuing that legacy is definitely bewildering and a challenge, and one that, you know, we wanted to definitely fill. And I think one of the things that makes Yendur Theater Company unique and so important to the infrastructure of arts here in community is that we really look at the idea of community differently, and we want to break down barriers of accessibility. So, and Amiri's son, Raz, has actually inspired this idea. You know, people used to ask him, where are the spaces for people to create? We want buildings, buildings, buildings. And, you know, Raz Baraka is the mayor, and he's like, I just can't give people things. But back in the day, people would go into the street to create theater. My father would, you know, we would take over space and create theater. So that's what we started to do, is how can we sort of begin to undo the need for a space and create space. So last summer we did plays right in the neighborhoods. And I feel like our arts organizations talk about community, our nonprofits talk about community, but they don't understand that even being located downtown and having people on the outer wards is already creating a barrier, because there are people who don't feel welcome going downtown. Even though this is their town, it's all Newark, they don't feel welcome going to certain places. So we say, we're coming to you, we're coming to the corner of Peshine and Clinton Avenue, and we're putting on a play right here. And we're knocking on doors, and we're giving people flyers, and we're feeding the community, and we're asking you to engage in this wonderful piece of theater that we're putting on. And we're using professional actors, and I tell you, first time I did it, and I'm bringing people from New York right into the neighborhood, and I'm bringing actors from New York to work with people from Newark. So it's like, we're not gonna have all New York actors. We having some Newark actors too. We having some Newark youth. We're all gonna work together to work through these problems and think about it. And we're doing it right here in Clinton. We're doing it in Lincoln Park. We're going to go to all wards at some point when COVID lets up. But it's just that idea that we can get rid of some of the barriers, and we could give access to art to those who really need it, because art is most certainly a beautiful thing, but it also has levels and layers, and there's been people historically denied from accessing art, and it can be a weapon to reinforce dangerous class and socioeconomic structures too.
Okay, well said, well said. Our stories can change people's lives, there's no doubt about it. And when it's told by us and for us, it has even more meaningful impact. So I'm just gonna go around my little Zoom screen here. So Ms. Shelton from Camden, why don't you tell us why your theater company is vibrant and vital, in the words of August Wilson?
We had telling Black women's stories, just telling Black women's stories from my social economic level, people whose voices, their rhythms are like mine. Like I say all the time, I don't want to take my voice up 3 octaves higher just so you can feel comfortable with who I am. When I visited Senegal last year and I heard the rhythm of their language, it let me know that the way we talk in our urban community, it's okay. It's okay that I don't want to assimilate, and it's okay whoever does, you understand? But I want to make sure that young girls and young women who sound like me, who look like me, who may be perceived as, because we have to navigate through our communities, we're strong and we may be aggressive, that we're also vulnerable too. That we also, it's all right for us to cry too. And I thought, in grad school, it was like, who's telling our stories? And at the time, it's like, I mean, stories from my hood and hoods that look like Camden, right? And that's what happened. That's how I Killed My Baby's Daddy, which was, we talk about the issues, we talked about postpartum depression and that, and I wanted to be able to dialogue with African-American women, and originally it's supposed to be African-American and Latino women, but to be honest and transparent, I have not really targeted and really focused on that as much as I should have or could have.
You mean our Latinx brothers and sisters? Is that what?
Yes,
okay.
yes. Was that my correction? Because they've been telling me that for almost a year. Latinx, yeah, okay. But it's really the sisters that I'm really focusing on. And so, like I said, telling our stories, telling child support, because I'm hearing the pain in the community. The artists, we are the advocates, right? So when you say they want to fund these other social organizations, and the artists are now the advocates in the community. We can get the message through. We help to heal like no one else is healing. You hear it in the music, you hear it and you see it on a film and a video. We are the ones that are sparking the dialogue and not being afraid to go forth and have these conversations. So that's how we're doing it. Another thing, and I'm gonna let someone else talk. We had like 5 amphitheaters in the city of Camden, and no one knew what they were, right? Well, not no one, because I can't stand where everybody swear they're the only one. No, I'm not the only one. But very few people in the city of Camden knew what the amphitheaters, what they were there for. And one of my goals, just my personal goals, was to show the community, the immediate community, that park and that outdoor amphitheater is meant for something other than drugs, to just at least let you see. So we started staging this year, when the restrictions came up, we did the outdoor theater of, what production did we just do? Real Housewives of Camden, which was a satire on the reality TV shows, and taking them to the actual amphitheater and allowing people to not only see art, but to also know this is my community. We do have nice parks. We do have nice things. And that's one of the reasons why we're here. And to be available for the next generation to say that Black theater still exists, Black theater still is alive, and Black women's theater is even more important than everybody's theater. Now, who want to fight about that? I'm ready. But I can't fight. Even though I'm from Camden, I really can't fight.
Well, yeah, I'd say that that's another little stereotype. But what the people from Camden do have, and we all have, is we're able to survive and adapt, and that is a wonderful, wonderful quality. Now, I have not seen 10 seconds of any of those Real Housewives shows, but I will tell you, that sounds interesting.
It's painful. Woo! To do the research for it, I must admit, it was very, very painful to watch for research and to know that this is what people are watching. This is what is entertainment. So I'm not going to fight against your taste, because who knows why you need to watch that. Mm-hmm. I am going to utilize that and say, let's talk about it, and let's talk about why we consider that
entertainment,
who we are.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Desi. We're going to swing over to Trenton and Passage. Brother Damien, why don't you tell us why Passage Theater is vibrant and vital?
Well, I think so. Passage, I believe, is vital in our community because we're not a Black theater company. We are a theater that appreciates the diverse voices that exist within our community. Out of the 86 or 80 some thousand residents in Trenton, a majority of our community is Black, African American, but we have a growing Latinx community as well. And so even though Passage has had a history of sort of trying to mix up the programming to include shows that deal with topics relating to Black issues throughout its season, I think, in recent years, we've tried to take it to the next level, right? So we have an artistic director, Ryan Dominguez, who joined the organization 3 seasons ago. And she is like all in on having the diverse voices on our stage. But one of the voices that we didn't have on our stage a lot was Latinx members. And so she—
Now tell me, why do I have to say Latinx rather than Latino? You said go Google it and figure it out. Which one is it? Or you want to take this opportunity to educate the world, and me too? Which one?
The way it's been explained to me is that Latino is very male centric, and Latina is very female centric. That's the language. Latinx sort of encompasses both the male, the female, the non-gender conforming aspects of that culture and the community. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, and we also want to give space that Latin, we're talking about the continent of South America, has all different types and all different cultures and all different ethnicities. So you could have someone of Cuban descent and someone of Puerto Rican descent could have totally different values, different behaviors, different attitudes. Dominican Republic, Honduras, Mexico. So by using the X, you acknowledge the multiplicity, the monolith of that culture. For Black people in America, we mostly, not all, but mostly were descendants of African slaves, and our history was cut away from us. We do not have that kind of history, but it's really interesting, Desi, that you pointed out, and I noticed the same thing when I travel to Africa, the connection, the similarities, the rhythms that we still have as a culture and a people. But we digress. Brother Damon,
yes.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to also say too that I think that because we've sort of opened our I always like to say there's room at the table for everyone. And I love it that our artistic director also, feels the very same way, and she creates our programming based on that. But having the Latinx voice at our table, as well as the African American voice at the table, as well as our our European Caucasian allies as well, it just makes the table larger. And it gives us a greater platform to be able to raise voices, diverse voices on our stage. I will say one of the challenges with that type of mission, though, is keeping everyone engaged, right? Because oftentimes when we've done African-American centered shows or Black shows, folks will say, let me know when you do your next Black show. But, and it's like, great, you know, we will, but I can't tell you when that will be next. It'll probably be a year from now, but I will definitely let you know. But we have this Latinx show that's also great as well. So trying to keep our community sort of open-minded and interested in all of the programming. But it also reminds us too that African Americans have and Blacks have had a history of not having their voices explored on stage. So it's that sort of going back and forth of trying to understand it while trying to introduce it more to our community. So.
Yeah, thank you, Damien. You make some great points about Passage not necessarily being a Black theater company, but you represent the community, and your community is changing, and you want your organization to evolve with that change. I think that's really important to recognize. My father used to say that this is the big country. There's 2 oceans. There's 3,000 miles between us. There's enough room for everybody.
Yes.
And what we have to realize is that it's not about excluding, but what we want to do is dismantle white supremacy so that there's enough room and space for everyone. Brother Dr. Kinde wrote his best-selling book about how to be an anti-racist. He says that racism is only 600 years old. He has a very, very positive outlook. And he says we have been taught to be racist. We can be untaught. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And the work that you're doing lays the foundation for that in the community of Trenton. So we're really proud and pleased with what's going on at Passage. So, Janice.
Marshall, can I ask you, so if we can be, how can our funders be taught? How can they be taught to diversify the funding for real, not for fake?
I think that's a great question, which after we hear from Janice, I want to dive into the future, because you all mentioned that it's great to get this influx of money now, but is this going to be the flavor of the month? Can we really have George Floyd's daughter, who said, "My daddy changed the world," it not just be a momentary glimpse as these checks are being written, but so that they're written to sustain our organization so our stories can get out there and have impact in our community. So, but we're gonna get on that. Janice, you opened things up. You had the bravery to speak first. So now, if you could tell us why Vanguard is vital and vibrant.
Yes, well, like Damien said, Vanguard is not a Black theater. However, Vanguard is all about changing the narrative of theater. And we have many Black voices. And one of the ways that we really like to change that narrative is through our education program, which are vital to what we do. My husband, who's been a Broadway actor for 20 years, you know him, Marshall, Dwayne Clark. So he's been a Broadway actor for many years, but he learned while doing, because he didn't have the education. He grew up in an urban neighborhood. He sang in church. He knew that he loved theater, but he didn't really know how to go about that journey. And he's had some struggles along the way. And so I wanted to create a space where young artists had mentorship opportunities. So every year we have a Broadway buddy program where we pair up and coming Broadway artists with established Broadway artists that look just like them. It gives them an opportunity to ask those really difficult questions, to have that person to go to when they're struggling. I wish I had had that person early on. There were many times where I was asked to do things that I was really uncomfortable with, to be quite honest. And I didn't have that person to go to and say, hey, how do I navigate these situations? So we're big on one-on-one mentorship, but not only on the performance end, also the pipeline for the directors and the producers and the casting directors and the choreographers, all the people who are making decisions, right? The people on the other side of the table that are making decisions in order to create a more equitable space in commercial theater as well as nonprofit theater as well. And so we do a lot on both ends. We have a program actually this weekend, Nightmare Before Christmas on Concert, that was directed and produced by a young woman of color. Her name is Niobe, and she came to me one day with this idea and said, well, I want to do it. And I said, great, we're going to do it. We're going to figure out a way to make it happen for you. And so that's what we are constantly doing, trying to empower these young voices so that they one day will be the directors, will be the producers, will be making those decisions to make it a more equitable space for us all.
Great. Preparing the next generation of theater artists are really, really important. Mentorship was mentioned at the top of the program. I can't help but think about my mentors when I was young at Rutgers, Mr. Avery Brooks and Mr. Hal Scott. I'm sure you all have mentors that kind of shepherded and created the way for you to be now. And it's a powerful responsibility to know that we are bringing on people behind us. I'm gonna quote Miss Fannie Lou Hamer, where she says, lift while you climb, lift while you climb. I love that. So let's kind of delve deep in. We've got about 10 minutes before we're gonna take some questions from our audience, but I really wanna talk about the future. Desi kind of touched on that with the funders. And how can we make this sustainable? How can we get the funding community to recognize that what we do in Black theater has value, and how can we get them to support that volume when, as August Wilson says, the economic structures are different for us? Who would like to take that? Brother Aaron, you're nodding your head.
Sure. Yeah, that's, and I think that's the question of the year. How do we make them see our value? I mean, and I feel twofold about that. The first is to continue to do the work, continue to tell the stories, continue to show that there is a narrative, maybe that they aren't used to hearing. That's the first fold. The other fold is we don't need them. We can do it ourselves. As you said in the beginning, we're used to doing things, with little resources and making magic out of the little that we have. And I think we talked about it in one of our pre-conversations, is that there are so many siloed conversations happening right now about we should create our own, we should do this. But if we all just somehow start talking together and figuring out how we can build this collective together in the name of, this conversation that we're having today, this collective community, collective energy. If we figure out how we can build this engine together and fund it ourselves, then maybe, we won't have to worry about, being sustainable and being, laced to or dependent upon, foundations or white money or, other people when we can do it ourselves.
You make a great point. I started reading an article in the Washington Post about two professors that did a longitudinal study about African Americans in the 20th century. And they charted mortality, they charted deaths, and they were really surprised that things kind of flattened out after the Civil Rights Movement, after the passage of the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. And what they recognize is that when things were segregated, as painful as that was, we kind of stuck together because we had no choices. We had to go to the HBCU. My father is a graduate of South Carolina State. My grandfather owned a funeral parlor. So we had no other choices. So with integration, you then have this Black wealth that got disseminated. So we did a play called Kansas City Swing, which took place a year after the Jackie Robinson crossed the color line, and a boarding house, a Southern boarding house in Kansas City, was facing hard times because the baseball teams weren't coming anymore because all the players were going to the major leagues. So there's something to be said for that. I don't know how that's going to really the ramifications of it, but there was just something in terms of us not being on an equal playing field when the laws changed. I do also know that a lot of the major philanthropic organizations, particularly the Ford Foundation, is run by a black gentleman, and he has put issues of equity, diversity, and inclusion at the top of their list. Also, a lot of these foundations are built on European philosophies, European wealth, and they support kind of a Eurocentric vision. So we have to dismantle all that to get them to see a different side, a different perspective, a different point of view. Damon, I think I saw your hand up, so we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, you know, I wanna go back to just before 2020. I started noticing foundations started talking about EDI, right? Equity, diversity, and inclusion. I'm also on the committee with Marshall for the New Jersey Theater Alliance's EDI policy committee. And it's become something I've heard funders started using maybe a year or two ago. And I think the Black Lives Matter movement and COVID helped sort of move that conversation along much faster. But I think looking at structure is definitely going to be another way for us to sort of elevate Black art, Black theater, and in this state across the country. I also think that one of the challenges that I think all theater has to, in performing art, artists have to sort of get above is technology. You know, if anything COVID has done for Passage, it's taught us we've got to be more agile in being able to get ourselves out there, not just through in-person engagement. So, you know, and I think it piggybacks a little bit off of what you were saying, Marshall, about, you know, not saying that we have to be segregated in order to be successful, but I feel like that we have to find we have to find the community again, because theater has become such an elitist art form, right? Through ticket prices, the fact that you have to come into a building that you're not used to coming into, you know, sets up another set of dynamic and challenges. And, you know, Desi, you were talking about doing theater in the park and in amphitheaters and so forth. We've got to figure out a way, and I think as people of color, as Black people, we can do this. Figure out creative ways of producing theater that's not, doesn't necessarily follow the traditional model of theater, because to me, the traditional model of theater is a white model. It's a European model. One of the great things about going to Cal Arts in the 1990s, and I got to meet August Wilson during that time and got some really good wisdom from him that I hold to this day. But one of the great things that we did was we didn't always do theater at Cal Arts or in my work with Cornerstone Theater Company and things like that, that was traditional facilities and spaces. We brought the theater to the community. And I think that that's how we get funders, by doing something different. Because we, you know, because we don't have large endowments right now, we still have the flexibility to explore and experiment.
Thank you, Damon. You make a great point about technology and the power of technology. I can't help but think we are here convening with some 400 other people scattered throughout the world because of technology and Zoom. So there is lots and lots of a future in that, and we have to figure out ways of how we can take advantage of those opportunities. Anybody else would like to share their vision in terms of the future and how we can make this a sustainable, how we can dismantle the structures so that our theaters can be vibrant, remain vibrant through increased funding? I'll just say one. Oh, go on, Andrew.
I was just going to say, if we're looking at it through the sort of the models that currently exist, and we can acknowledge, especially we as Black artists can acknowledge the ways in which those models are not set up to be equitable for all. Yes, we have a responsibility to express the fact that it's not equitable for all, whether that's through the philanthropic community or traditional funders or corporations, but also we need those who claim to be allies to also be in solidarity with that, because part of the most important part of the racism structure is the power that white has over Black, and that's the historical thing that they've inherited. So the only way to undo that is to begin to undo that power, and that comes with the funding and money. So we need our allies to step up. Other than, you know, posting a black square on Instagram and saying, you know, it's Blackout Tuesday, that's great. But how can they also think about, all right, the power structure and the distribution is not equitable right now. What can we do to help, you know, begin to shift that balance? So part of it is like, how do you change the system that exists? And then also feel like change also happens outside of the systems. And that goes back to that idea of collectively, what can we all do? We all work in our silos, in our spaces, in our cities and towns. What are ways that we can collectively think about working together to have a greater impact? And the very interesting thing right now is, you know, COVID, you know, disrupted all the existing power structures already, because, you know, you have a building and you have a whatever million endowment, that don't matter because y'all can't even go in the building.
And even use it.
How much money your theater got? And right now, we're all kind of on the same playing field. The person who has the advantage is the person who has the, I guess, the social media following and maybe the social media person or personnel, but we all kind of have a little bit of, it's a little bit flatter than we can potentially access the people just as much as the theater or the organization with a lot of money. And how do we use this time to pivot and really be strategic in navigating the rest of this space, but also what happens on the other side of this, the normal or new normal that we might be entering into.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we love about Tyler Perry. And as Marshall pointed out, that I totally forgot Shelley Garrett, that they leave all of us without excuse, right? They leave us without excuse. They didn't go to the power structures. They wanted to make theater. They wanted to make theater for their people, and they did it, right? And they started out small, and they started out local, and they started out in their city, and they just were hyper focused on making theater for a specific constituency, and they achieved that goal. And looking for others, it's what Aaron says, it's like we have to step outside of that, right? Number one, redefine success, and that's where I am now. What is success as a Black theater company? And I say all the time, it's 77,000 people in the city of Camden. Success for me is if every last one of them come to see a Camden rep production. So I had to redefine success for myself after I had the real conversation with myself. Like, yes, I did. I'm not gonna, I want the $4-point-something million budget. I wanted the theater space that looked like Freedom Theater, that was Afrocentric, and I wanted sustainability, and I wanted 7 companies in there and giving birth to new companies. But let's just focus on how do we get the 77,000 people in the Camden community? Because then the outreach, if you can get the people in the Camden community come see it, then their cousins in Philly, will come see it, and their cousins in Cherry Hill or wherever their cousins are will come see it. And that's what I find. Number one, we have to redefine success for ourselves. And that's hard sometimes, right? It's hard because I started out saying how I felt validated when I saw my name on the list. Another one, sharing resources. I think a lot of times we're scared to say and tell each other, oh, this is who funded me. And when you walk in there, blink 3 times. And if you blink 3 times, see, they like blinkers. So if you blink, they will know that you're in. And then I'm telling you, they're going to write you the check. I think we're afraid to do that amongst ourselves to help each other, because it's somewhere inside of us that we feel that if I give you the key, that they're going to cut me or, whatever. So my whole thing is, look, here are the keys. If you can get in, get in. Yeah. But here are the keys to getting the funding. And I'm always grateful, whether it's a little or a lot. I had to practice that, the funding that I have received. Like I said, here are the keys to getting our own facilities so that we aren't always begging. Again, here are the keys, looking at the amphitheater in your community. Now you have a viable season and it's outdoor and you don't have to worry about, oh, we're stopping our season. Because the truth of the matter is, just like our arts and education program, we can't stop. Yeah. Right? We can't. They're in rehearsal right now. Why? Because either they're going to die from COVID or they're going to die from the foolishness that they happen to get into. So we can't afford to stop. We can't afford, and I always feel like as an artist, that's our responsibility to figure it out, right?
So,
We didn't take this road because we wanted to save road. We picked the wrong profession if we wanted to save thing, like, you know what I mean, at all. So it's my job in Camden to figure out, how do I do this art when the world says we have to shut down and still honor the season? Because I believe in that. You have to honor the season. And the world is saying, this is the season that we're in, pause, and let's see what's going on in our society, and still make sure that these kids their needs are still being addressed, so that the divide is not widened even more because of the access. So, and I'm stealing that. Like, we do the mentorship program, but I'm still in the casting agent. I never thought about that part. We do the producer, we do the tech, we have a program, PACE, and then inside of that is Hammer and Nails. And Hammer and Nails is to get more African-American and Latinx children in the design field, right? In the design field. But I never thought about that casting agent. So I'm still in that. So next time you hear me saying that, like it's the one woman show I gave birth to, know that I stole it.
Well, Desi, you bring a lot of points. You talk about the urgency. You talk about managing your expectations in terms of who you're absolutely serving, and that's the 77 citizens of Camden. But you also touched on something else that I just want to highlight. When you talked about earlier the validation from your funding, and then at the same breath talk about how we have to be a part of our own. Being Black in America is a very complex issue. There's no simplicity to it. This is a country that we love. We sign up to fight in wars, but yet it treats us like third, fourth, fifth class citizens. So the kind of complexity that you and your company is faced with is all a part of being Black in America.
Marshall, you're gonna do a show. I'm telling you right now, I'm in your business and I'm bossing you around. You're a very good host, and this isn't me brown nosing, because I don't have not one dog in that race, like I heard the lady say, and I love that line. But you need to do a national podcast, and I'm sure it's already out there on Black theater. I'm coming. Make sure you have me. Make sure you have all of us. I'm not gonna be selfish.
You'll be the guest. I think we have to move on to question and answers. But I appreciate that. I have to say, I know Mr. Tavis Smiley was caught up in some other kinds of stuff, but I do miss his show on PBS. But
okay, well, you're next. Tag, you're next, because you have a great way of bringing in education and all of that. Tag, you're it. A year from now, I want to hear it. Do your 12-month plan. You'll
be a guest. We're going to switch over to our Q&A. Thank our guests for their great insight about their theater companies and where they're at. Let's see, is this going to be coming through the chat? We've got our listening audience. We had 400 reservations. I don't know how many people are out there now. I hope it's more than 400 as they are soaking up the wisdom. I'll just say one thing while we're waiting for the questions to come. When I was at Crossroads, I would oftentimes talk to our white subscribers and our white members and ask them, why do they come to Crossroads? And they all pretty much said the same thing. Every time they see a play at Crossroads, and I'm pretty sure it would be the same if they came to your theater companies, they learned something. Mm-hmm. And one gentleman in particular said, I learned something about my neighbors. And by learning something about my neighbors, that makes me a better citizen. And by being a better citizen, I'm making this a better world. Now that sounds a little Pollyanna, but I love that because it shows how we are connected. Okay, we have a question. Do you think there's a contradiction between reimagining traditional pieces with color conscious casting versus doing work specifically created by and for Black artists? Color, reimagining traditional pieces. So you do A Streetcar Named Desire, or Death of a Salesman, you have an entire Black cast, or you're doing work specifically created by and for Black artists. I mentioned George C. Wolfe, so you could say like Noise Funk or Color Museum. Damon, did you want to take that?
Yeah, because I remember back in the 90s, we were asking that question as well, about doing non-traditional casting and using classical pieces. I said earlier, I worked with Cornerstone Theater Company that in Los Angeles, and what they do is they take classical plays and they adapt them to a specific community, and create new art and use the classical text as a springboard. I see no problem with that. I think sometimes, when you look at classical theater, you look at Shakespeare, oftentimes young people who aren't really trained very well in high school how to read it and how to process it, they're turned off by it. But if you take, I produced a show once called Up from the Downs that was an adaptation of Othello. And we set it in Los Angeles. The king was the police chief of Los Angeles. People were able to understand that, and the war was a gang war. Why not use classical texts to do that? Because there is the possibility of creating new art at the same time.
Well, I think it's room for both. I don't think it's a contradiction. Right. I think it's definitely room for both. And I think you work your lane, right? Now, my perspective, I'm going to say it's like the plane. When they tell you if the things start going down, put your own mask on first. That's what I want to do with Black artists. I want to put, that's what it is for me. I'm putting our mask on first and making sure the oxygen is on. I have to do that. That is my calling, but I think somebody else's calling is to do the other thing. I just want both of us to be funded equally.
There you go. There you go. Guys, hold on one sec. The questions are just flying in. So I just want to try and respect as many as we can as possible. We could be talking about this for the next couple of days. So what ways can be most effective for artists and staff to advocate for dismantling racist power structures at their institutions? Effective ways to dismantle the racial power structures at your institution. We all have culturally specific institutions, so I think we can address that towards the outside institutions, whether it's the Board of Eds, whether it's funding, whether it's the corporate dollars that do not come in on an equitable level. Who would like to take that? Dismantling power structure. Janice?
I'd like to just talk about the fact that I think education is key. And I know that for a lot of organizations, when they talk about, diversity initiatives, the people that show up to those initiatives are the people of color. And so I think that is the problem. There needs to be some form of consistency with diversity initiatives and education and anti-racist education that is required. I feel so blessed that my children go to a school that is beginning to implement anti-racist education into their everyday curriculum, because all of this is embedded in all of us. It's been embedded into all of us, and education is the key.
Yeah, I would agree. And we can learn a lot from our children. I remember reading about President Obama and his two girls talking about a friend of theirs that had two moms. And just that simple fact made him rethink his views on same-sex marriage. We've got a couple questions to ask about what success looks like. And they want to know from each guest. Desi, I think we heard from you. You want all 77 citizens of Camden, New Jersey to enter your doors. Let's hear from everyone else. Aaron?
Sure, what success looks like.
Yeah, what does success look like? Yes.
Success looks like, giving artists and audience a chance to hear different narratives, period. That's what I'll put it simply that way.
Okay, Andrew Yendor?
I feel like success would be a space where everyone in the community of Newark, in the city of Newark, have access to high quality arts, and also the artists in Newark are part of a healthy infrastructure where they can be developed, and they see this as a playing space for them. And we tell more Black and Brown stories.
Okay, well, let's hope Mayor Baraka was listening. Damien.
Success for Passage would be that every person in this community throughout Trenton, the 86,000 plus residents, will think of theater as being a must-have or a must-consume, and not something that is, sort of there when they want it,
Okay, great. Janice.
Yeah, I will echo that. I feel that we all need to be looking at theater and the arts as something that is essential.
Yes.
I'm also going to echo what Aaron said. I mean, I feel that sustainability is also key. Success for Vanguard Theater Company means that from year to year to year, we can continue to offer programming and not always be chasing our tail.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that all of you commented about the community. You commented about your constituents, the people that are right there in your neighborhoods. And that's really significant. We should also point out that the arts serve as an economic engine. There've been studies right in New Brunswick that Crossroads George Street and the State Theater brings close to $30 million on an annual basis to the city of New Brunswick in terms of parking and restaurants and things like that. Not to mention the educational programs and the value that we give when we go into the classrooms and educate the next generation of leaders. Nayaya Bailey wants to know if there is a directory of all Black theater companies in the US. I can say, as a former board member of TCG, the Theater Communications Group, there is on the website a directory of culturally specific theaters. So you can go to tcg.org. There's also an organization called Black Theater Commons, which you can search. There's the BTA, which is Black Theater Associations, though that is primarily made up of Black higher education educators. And there's the Black Theater Network. So they all have websites. You can go on and see all the great work that's coming in. That question came from Gregory Connor. Okay, so there's another question about, that's also about the racist power structure. I also wanted to touch on the announcement of We See You White American Theater. For those of you who aren't aware, a collection of theater artists, some 300, including yours truly, signed a statement in June listing a series of demands that we wanted for white theaters to accept and to partake in. I'm just wondering if any of you have signed on to the piece, or if you read the piece, or if you have any thoughts about those demands from an anonymous group, a collective. So it's not a Eurocentric type of hierarchy where there's a chain of command and there's a power structure. It's really circular, which is more of an African kind of conceit. If any of you have any comments on that? I guess not. Okay, so we're here to talk about Black theater. So we have some remarks coming up from Jeremy and Aisha, but I want to thank you all for giving us your insights on your theater companies, about sustainability, and how we can have an impact into our community so we uplift everyone. Thank you so much.
Yes, applause. Applause all around. I hope you all can hear me okay. Marshall Jones, thank you so much for moderating this riveting discussion. My name is Jeremy Johnson. For those of you who do not know me, I am the Executive Director of Newark Arts. I'm really just here to provide some closing remarks, but there is very little I can add, although I could listen to this conversation for yet another hour. The strength of Black theater, as you all have indicated, runs so strong, but against some incredible challenges. Is it vibrant? Is it vital? Absolutely. But first, I wanted to say thank you, a lot of thanks to New Jersey Performing Arts Center, to Donna Walker-Kuhn and Aisha at NJPAC. Donna is also on the board of Newark Arts, so a special thanks. And to the New Jersey Theater Alliance for for bringing this together. Really, this shows the power of partnerships. Deontay, great job, and a shout out to the head of NJ Theater Alliance, John McEwen. And I need to acknowledge just some special friends. All of the panelists were amazing, but being at Newark Arts, we have a special bond with Yendor. Andrew, thank you for the work you're doing. When I want to find great theater in this town, you know, it's slim pickings, but I always can go to Yendor to find some great playwrights, some great work happening right here in our own town, and other things that are bubbling up. And I just want to do another thanks to Marshall. You being from Crossroads, it played a special part in my building my arts chops here in New Jersey. When I first came here, I remember traveling to New Brunswick, not to the old Crossroads, but to the old Crossroads, up the creaky, rickety stairs. Do you remember that?
I do.
Talk to what who said we can make a lot out of a little. Was that Desi? Crossroads showed that happening, and I thank you for that experience. Before I turn this over, I want to clarify something that was said. It was that we need to sometimes create our own, and I agree with that. We need to create our own if funding is going to other folks or research going to others. But I also want you all to know, foundation money is really public money that foundations are allowed to hold because the government allows them to hold it for social purposes. So if that funding is going inequitably other places, we have a right to stand up, and artists and theaters should keep making that noise known. So the inequity continues on the funding, both publicly and privately. So let's not just let them off and say, okay, we're going to create our own while the other groups get the funding that have traditionally gotten the funding. All the research is out there. It's coming back to us. Who has it said? We've known this for ages, but let's not let them off. I'm so thrilled that the funding community in New Jersey, and nationally especially, is really coming to realize that. National foundations are starting to realize that. And as Janice said, she said that this is the most she received in her theater's career. Let's hope that, let's not just hope, but let's demand that this not be a final tour of funding for groups like ours. So I just wanted to make that clear. Foundation dollars is really public dollars that foundations have been allowed to keep by the government. So we have a right to raise the questions how that money is spent. So forgive me for going off on a tangent on that. And finally, I want to say the arts do serve as an economic engine, Marshall. Here in Newark, arts are so central to our work, and we are working with our mayor, Raz Baraka, to continue to invest in the arts. We've got to do so much more. The mayor did put a person in the office, Fayemi Shakur, to help lead the way. We're so proud of that, but we got to keep fighting for this. I, as head of a arts organization, I have 1 foot with government, 1 foot foundations. I work that middle road to build the partnerships, but we encourage artists, be angry, be proud, make those theater pieces happen, and we're willing to work with you all to help them make them happen. So I've gone on and on. I want to turn it over to our wonderful friend Aisha Marable at Newark Arts. I'm sorry, NJPAC, who makes these wonderful programs happen. Thank you to all of you. You've been fabulous.
Thank you so much. My name is Aisha Marable, as you heard. I'm the Director of Community Engagement, and it's my honor to be the producer of this amazing virtual Kwanzaa. And obviously, it cannot be done without partners like yourself. So please give yourselves a round of applause. What an amazing conversation. Thank you all so much. You brought a wealth of information, and I am confident that anyone who came today and who will listen to the recording afterwards will be so encouraged. You have provided wisdom and guidance and direction, and you have really pushed the envelope. They are ready to move and make some new things happen. So congratulations to you. I'm confident that this particular Kwanzaa is something we've never done before, and we could have only done it because of our funders. Thank you so much again. As Donna Walker-Kuhn shared earlier, to the Cooperman family, to ADP, to the Women's Association, to M&T, to Whole Foods, and a host of others who made this happen. We could not do it without our community partners like the City of Newark, Mayor Ross Baraka, and the entire team there. We also had the Divine Nine that came forth earlier. But remember, this is just the beginning. This is pre-Kwanzaa. So there's a lot more for you to see. We have a dance program that is coming up immediately after this. So stay tuned, get some water, go back on our Facebook page, on our website, njpac.org/Kwanzaa, and register for one of those movement classes. I promise you, it'll get your body grooving. But if not today, make sure you share the information so others can come back and look at the recordings of all the amazing information that we shared today. I want to say thank you again. And we have about 8 minutes, so I don't want to be the last voice that we hear. I would love for us to do one more round robin to share with us how we can get in touch with you. You are obviously the epitome of the Nguzo Saba. You have already exemplified how we have mastered as a group, the Theater Alliance, how to actually exemplify the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. So just take one moment just to remind people, if they came on late, how they can get in contact with you, how they can follow you, how they can support your group theater. Please take a moment and share your last words. Thank you so much. And I look forward to hearing great things about your theater work. Happy holiday, and please continue looking at the rest of our programming for Kwanzaa. We have a marketplace. So please visit the marketplace and support the artisans. We have Step Africa, the performance that's only available until tomorrow. So please stop by our website and check out Step Africa's performance. And we have arts and crafts. And one of our young persons, we just saw her amazing artwork. So you don't want to miss that. There are 5 pre-recordings. Get in where you fit in, and please support. Let's take a last round robin. Let's hear from everyone. Where can we find you, and what's your last words for our audience?
Okay, great. So who would like to go first? Janice, are you unmuting yourself to go first?
I am.
I am
I can unmute.
unmute.
So you can find Vanguard Theater Company at www.vanguardtheatercompany.org. That's theater spelled with an ER at the end. We also have a space in Montclair, New Jersey that we are in the process of renovating, and we hope to be open really soon. You can also check us out for classes. And like I mentioned earlier, we have a production that's completely student-led that will be happening this weekend on YouTube. So please do look us up.
www.camdenrep.com. Instagram is, and you can get all of our hashtags and everything off of that, because I'm so old. I'm 50. I don't know any of that. All the young people know that. Hashtag CamdenRep. I think that's the Instagram, and we're also on Facebook. So, and thank you guys for sharing and teaching.
We thank you. We thank you for giving voice to the women of Camden. Aaron.
Yes, so you can find High Arts, www.hi-artsnyc.org. And also coming early 2021, you can follow the ALM Way, a new theater management performing arts organization founded by yours truly, the ALM Way, and that will be coming early 2021.
Sounds great. Yes. Andrew.
So as I said, you can find more information about Yendor and Yendor Theater Company at yendorproductions.com. Additionally, Yendor Theater Company is on social media at Yendor Theater Company on Instagram, and Yendor Theater Company business page on Facebook. And I want to also acknowledge and show some appreciation to our wonderful partners, Newark Arts and Jeremy Johnson, for the shout out.
Yeah, and we must also give a celestial acknowledgement to Mr. Rodney Gilbert, who founded the production company that Andrew is now shepherding. His spirit is certainly missed. And Damien.
Yes. All right. So Passage Theater, you can find out more information for us at www.passagetheater.org. We've got, check out our online programming. This is the first time we've ventured into that world. We have a reading coming up in January, mid to late January, called Babel. The play is called Babel, written by Jackie Goldfinger. And it should be a really interesting reading. So we're learning so much about online programming. So it'll probably have some bells and whistles and so forth. So come and join us.
We love bells and whistles. And that was a great little segue to end, because Damon, you also talked about the power of technology, and from Desi's hashtags to all the technologies that we are taking advantage of to grow our companies, which is great. So I think I turn this back over to Jeremy for the closing remarks. Donna, are we going to see you again? The lovely Donna Walker-Kuhn. All the work she's done for the community is just absolutely wonderful, both in at the Public Theater in New York, at Crossroads, and certainly at NJPAC. And I believe she's writing a new book. Her invitation to the party is kind of a bestseller in our business. And I think she said she's working on a new one.
He is. Just about finished.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marshall. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank everyone else for their contributions. We thank our viewing audience. We really appreciate all of your support, and go out and see Black Theater.
Yes.
This is stuff in New York City.
Support Black Theater. Give to
Yes.
Black Theater. It's Kwanzaa season, a
Yes.
season of giving. Give to the arts.
Yes. And if anyone has missed it today, this recording will be available on our YouTube channel tomorrow.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you, Marshall. Amazing job. Thank you. We appreciate you.
Yes.